Hello students, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I am going to give you a brief lecture on respiration. So respiration involves two fundamental processes. They are nothing but external respiration and internal respiration. So external respiration is nothing but the breathing. Breathing is a process of exchange of respiratory gases such as carbon dioxide, oxygen between organism and their environment. So that is called external respiration. So here we are talking about the internal respiration. So in the internal respiration, it involves oxidation of food. Through the oxidation of food, the energy is going to be released. Okay. So internal respiration involves oxidation of food within the cell. So that is called cellular respiration. So it involves oxidation of food and liberation of energy. Here the taken food is completely oxidized into CO2 and H2O. So cellular respiration occurs in cytosol or cytoplasm of the cell and mitochondria. So that's why this process is called as cellular respiration. So in this class we are going to deal the cellular respiration. Okay? All living organisms, they require energy. Energy comes from food. Cells cannot utilize the stored food. That's why it should be converted into an usable form. So that is nothing but ATP. So through the cellular respiration, the stored food get converts into usable form. So it involves the oxygen for the breakdown of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. The scientist Sachs, he classified respiration into two types. Aerobic respiration, second one is anaerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration occurs in presence of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration occurs in absence of oxygen. So let's see aerobic respiration in detail. It occurs in presence of oxygen. There the food materials are completely oxidized into CO2 and H2O. So the food materials are completely oxidized into CO2 and H2O in aerobic respiration. It occurs in most eukaryotic organisms such as plants and animals. So the organisms which carry this kind of respiration, cellular respiration, are called as aerobes. Let's see aerobic respiration in detail. So aerobic respiration is a catabolic process. First one, it is a catabolic process. Catabolic is nothing but it is a degradative process. Here, the complex organic substances like food materials such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, they break down into a simpler substances, nothing but inorganic substances like CO2 and H2O. Okay, so that's why this is a catabolic process. So it is an oxidative process. So it involves the oxidation of food materials. That's why it is an oxidative process. So it is an exergonic process. Why? Because here the food materials are going to break down into simpler substances. There we are going to get the energy. So energy released in this reaction, so that will be utilized by the cell. So that's why this is an exergonic process. So let's see the aerobic respiration equation. C6H12O6 plus 6O2 gives rise in presence of enzymes. Oxidation of food molecules occurs. They converts into simpler inorganic compounds. So energy will be released in this process. So 686 kilocalories or 2870 kilojoules energy will be released in this process for one molecule of glucose. Okay. So this is the aerobic respiration equation. Aerobic respiration involves four major pathways. They are glycolysis, pyruvate oxidative decarboxylation, third one is Krebs cycle, fourth one is electron transport chain. So these are the four major steps involved in aerobic respiration. So glycolysis, so here glucose molecules break down into, that is an initial step of aerobic respiration. There the glucose converts into pyruvic acid. So in the next step, pyruvic acid converts into acetyl coenzyme. Acetyl coenzyme A enters into Krebs cycle. There it condenses with oxaloacetic acid. It undergoes a sequential reactions. Finally, CO2 and H2O are released in the Krebs cycle. That means complete oxidation occurs in Krebs cycle. Okay. In Krebs cycle, many energy molecules are released. They are released in the form of NADH2 and FADH2. So they undergoes electron transport chain. So there they can convert into ATP. Okay, so glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm of the cell, cytoplasm or cytosol of the cell, whereas pyruvic oxidative decarboxylation and Krebs cycle, they occur in the matrix of mitochondria, and electron transport chain occurs on inner membrane of mitochondria. There you will find infoldings. They are nothing but cristae. So cristae are the site for the electron transport chain. Okay, so in eukaryotes, major oxidation reactions they occurs in mitochondria. So that's why the real respiratory apparatus is nothing but mitochondria. Let's see the detailed structure of mitochondria. So this is the structure of mitochondria, students. So they are the important cell organelles. They are associated with the cellular respiration. So they are associated with the energy liberation, nothing but they are involved in the preparation of ATP molecules. Okay, so let's see the detailed structure of mitochondria. So mitochondria are enveloped by two unit membranes. One is outer mitochondrial membrane and second one is inner mitochondrial membrane. The space in between two membranes is called as perimitochondrial space. Okay, so the inner membrane showing infoldings. So these infoldings are called as a cristae. Okay, so actually they are associated with the energy liberation. Okay, so cristae containing special particles, they are nothing but F1 particles, oxysomes or elementary particles. So these are the F1 particles. So each F1 particle is having head, stalk and base piece. Base piece get embedded in the inner membrane. Okay, so the outer membrane is permeable to all substances, whereas the inner membrane is selectively permeable to molecules like water, CO2 and O2. So it does not allows the movement of protons into and outside. Okay, so actually F1 particles, they involved in the movement of protons when they are passing protons. So the energy will be released. That energy is used up by the ADP molecules for the synthesis of ATP. So in this way the energy is released in the mitochondria. ATP are synthesized in the mitochondria. So the inner chamber of mitochondria is filled with granular dense substance. So that is called as matrix. So inner chamber of mitochondria is nothing but matrix. So it consists DNA and ribosomes. So that's why mitochondria are called as self-duplicate organelles or self-autonomous organelles. They have their own protein machinery also. So mitochondria is itself is having their own DNA and ribosomes. So that's why they can prepare the protein whatever necessary for the cellular respiration. So matrix encloses 70% of proteins which are necessary for the cellular respiration. Okay. So this is about the structure of mitochondria, students. So let's see what are ATPs, how they are release energy. So as I mentioned earlier, respiration is an exergonic process. That means it releases energy that is used by the cell whenever the energy is needed. Okay. So either energy released in the form of heat or either it is released as a temporarily packed chemical compound, nothing but ATP. ATP is nothing but adenosine triphosphate. Whenever the cell requires energy, then ATP gets hydrolyzed for the release of energy. Whenever the energy is required by the cell, then the molecules of ATP undergoes hydrolysis process. Then the energy will be released. That will be utilized by the cell for cellular processes. Okay. So ATP is nothing but a nucleotide. It consists three major components. First one is nitrogen base adenine. Second one is a pentose sugar. Nothing but ribose sugar. So third one is three inorganic phosphates. Let's see the detailed structure of ATP. Let's see how it will give the energy by hydrolysis. Okay. So this is the structure of ATP, students. So ATP is having one ribose sugar, one nitrogen base and three inorganic phosphates. So which is a nucleotide actually. When it undergoes hydrolysis, okay, when it undergoes hydrolysis, so the bond present at the third inorganic phosphate that is going to broken down. Okay, so when it breaks down, the energy will be released. So that energy will be utilized by the cell. Okay, so when it broken down, it yields 7.6 kilocalories energy. So which is utilized by the cell for the energy purposes, for the cellular processes. Okay. So let's see the equation of hydrolysis of ATP. So ATP undergoes hydrolysis, then it converts into ADP plus Pi, one inorganic phosphate is given out. The bond present at the last phosphate, when this bond is hydrolyzed, it yields 7.6 kilocalories energy that will be utilized for the cellular processes. Okay, so it yields H plus ions and 7.6 kilocalories energy. So ATP get converts into ADP. Okay, so here you will find only two inorganic phosphates. Okay students, this is about cellular respiration. This is only introduction part. Let's see the mechanism of cellular respiration in the next video. Thank you students.